Did you know that Bryce Remsburg refereed John Cena's last match on the Indies in 2019? Did you know he wrestled himself? It's true! Look at him slam himself through a table. What a performance, and what a special moment for Bryce Remsburg. Anyway, before wrestling himself in GCW, John Cena was wrestling in a more visible manner in WWE, becoming one of the most prolific and divisive wrestlers in history. Despite his flaws as a performer, Cena carried the WWE torch for the better part of 2 decades, putting on great matches with some of the biggest names wrestling has ever seen. To have a career as long and prosperous as Cena's, you will need some great dance partners, and here we're going to run down the 10 best to ever square dance with John the Invisible Man. Keep in mind, this won't be a ranking based on the body of work of Cena's opponents. You won't find Daniel Bryan on this list, even though their one major match at SummerSlam 2013 was fantastic, and Bryan is one of the best to ever lace up a pair of boots, but rather this is a look at the wrestlers in relation to John Cena and John Cena's career. I'm Tempest, hailing from partsFUNknown, and these are the 10 greatest rivals of John Cena's career. But before we get on with this list, make sure that you subscribe and enable notifications so you never miss a fun wrestling list just like this one. If you want another one to watch, Adam's made a list about championship belts. I know you guys love them. The views don't lie. Honorable mention, Randy Orton. Listen, I know that if I don't mention him, all the comments will ask, where's Randy Orton? But hot damn, WWE may try to present Randy Orton as John Cena's greatest rival, but I lived through all that shit. And of the 19 singles matches that Cena and Orton had on WWE television, I feel comfortable saying 3 of them were good. SummerSlam 07, Breaking Point 09, Hell in a Cell 2014. That's it. That's a poor batting average, and even with WWE's best efforts to push this as a generational rivalry, WWE fans themselves weren't having it, as illustrated by the complete lack of reaction when they went for the Hogan Warrior stare-down moment in the 2011 Royal Rumble. And was further illustrated when they tried it 2 more times in the same match to still no reaction. They have done good work together, but not good enough to crack the top 10. Love that I Quit match though. Number 10, Batista. John Cena benefited from his rivalry with Batista taking place when Batista had completely stopped caring about his WWE run prior to his departure in 2010. For those unaware, Don't Give a F Batista is the best version of Batista. Cena and Batista's careers paralleled each other to a scary degree up until their first meeting in 2008. From both coming up in OVW and debuting in 2002, with Cena coming up on SmackDown while Batista hit his stride on Raw, to being the final 2 in the 2005 Royal Rumble and both winning their first World Championships at WrestleMania 21, to then switching brands with their titles in hand at the 2005 Draft, it seemed as if they were being kept apart on purpose to further build up their eventual first clash. To WWE's credit, that could very well have been the case, and it made their match at SummerSlam 2008 feel like a really big deal. It was a great match, although I may be the biggest fan of this match in the world because of the 2008 edition nostalgia goggles I have perma-glued to my face. But their 2010 rivalry was also tremendous fun. Batista's character work and motivations of being angry to have seen the WWE torch passed to John Cena instead of him made all the sense in the world, and it helps that this was when Batista started cutting the best promos of his career. Their WrestleMania 26 match was one of Cena's best on the grandest stage, and it led to an equally fun last man standing match at Extreme Rules unless your name is Luke Owen, because Luke Owen hates duct tape and also fun. Number 9, Bray Wyatt. Talk about a rivalry that absolutely would not have made the cut on this list until a couple of years ago. John Cena's 2014 rivalry with Bray Wyatt and the Wyatt family started off great, with Cena being a perfect narrative counterpart to Wyatt's original silver-tongued cult leader character. Then they actually had their match at WrestleMania 30, and while the match isn't bad, it certainly didn't service the story or Wyatt's character, standing as one of the most damning examples of the Cena wins LOL era of booking. It didn't help when the rivalry further devolved into spooky children bollocks at Extreme Rules the following month before a very good last man standing match at Payback. If the rivalry was left there, it would not come close to qualifying for this list, but then we got the Firefly Funhouse match, which stood to recontextualize their entire rivalry with a level of artistic vision not seen before or since in WWE. It makes their 2014 rivalry and the mistakes made in it feel a lot more bearable when you see an in-depth dissection of the whole thing from the mouths of those involved. When we weren't capable of seeing a real WrestleMania because of unprecedented times, we got this instead, which is almost undoubtedly better than what we would have gotten otherwise. If you're looking at rivalries that impacted Cena's whole career, this is as unique as it gets. He also killed him! Number 8, Kurt Angle. If this was a list of the best wrestlers Cena has faced, Kurt Angle would have to place near the top. But nay, while the work involved in Cena's rivalry with Kurt Angle was very good, this was when parts of the audience began to turn on the former Doctor of Thugonomics. See, WWE was in a precarious situation with Cena in 2005. He wasn't a technically sound performer, but could have good matches with a strong dance partner. But the problem then became that the fans wanted to see the good dance partner beat him, which never happened throughout 2005. Cena had spent the summer beating Christian and Chris Jericho, and then had his feud with Kurt Angle during the fall. Their matches at Unforgiven and Survivor Series were among the best of Cena's initial title run, but did sour people on WWE's new poster boy. It is for that reason that this places closer to the bottom of the list, even though the lasting memory of their time together was enough to get people to call for Cena to be Angle's final opponent at WrestleMania 35, instead of, well, Baron Corbin. Cena inducted Angle into the WWE Hall of Fame, and that connection doesn't come out of nowhere. Number 7. The Rock. Were the matches between John Cena and The Rock great? No, not really. The first one was fun and also way too long. A half hour is not the optimal length for two big beefy boys to battle, especially when one of them hasn't had a singles match in 9 years. But it really is undeniable how big that match felt when it became a possibility for the first time. There were missteps for sure, no one wanted to see them twice in a lifetime, and even fewer wanted to see them hug after their match at WrestleMania 29, but there have rarely been moments where Cena has been forced to step up to the plate like he did going toe-to-toe with The Rock in the ring and on the mic. Number 6. Kevin Owens. WWE did know how to make a star in one night from time to time, coming right at the start of the influx of talented indie stars to make their way to the main roster from NXT. Kevin Owens was immediately given the opportunity to stand opposite John Cena and be presented as an equal. He called out Cena for wanting to impart veteran advice upon him, despite wrestling longer than Cena, and planted him with a pop-up powerbomb, setting up one of the best in-ring debut matches in WWE history at Elimination Chamber 2015. John Cena's matches have a bit of a formula to them, but this match felt completely unique for the time, and that's probably a big reason why people continue to point to it in videos over 7 years later. It also helps that KO won, at the height of the Cena wins lol era no less. Cena did get his win back and then some at Money in the Bank and Battleground, which may have slowed Owens' progress up the card, but thankfully he got there in the end, and what we were left with is one of the greatest trilogies of matches of John Cena's career. Throughout all 3 of these matches, Cena and Owens never once left the ring. I got nothing more to say about that fact, I just think it's neat. Number 5. Shawn Michaels. John Cena's run as WWE Champion in 2007 was the first truly great run he'd had as top guy of WWE, and the best part of that best run was his rivalry with Shawn Michaels. In terms of in-ring performances, Cena and Michaels' WrestleMania 23 match is head and shoulders above the rest of Cena's WrestleMania resume. A half-hour classic in front of Cena's largest audience to date, this was a statement match to fully cement his place at the top of WWE's totem pole. And yet, there is absolutely an argument to be made that that isn't their most iconic match together. To top a WrestleMania main event with a match less than a month later on Raw, it must mean that match was pretty darn special. And special indeed it was. The hour Broadway the two had in London is an achievement of a Raw match, especially for 2007. To hold an audience's attention for an hour and manage to peak at the perfect moment is an incredible feat, and it is unfathomable that 1 week later, Cena was booked to turn his attention to the Great Khali. Hour-long classics, no more. Shawn Michaels could legitimately have had great chemistry with a mop, so it doesn't come as a surprise that these matches were as great as they were, but it was only further illustrated by every time they got in the ring before Shawn's retirement. I highly recommend their match from the January 12, 2009 episode of Raw. It is one of the best Raw matches of that whole year, and it doesn't get nearly enough love. Number 4. Brock Lesnar. Another OVW boy with whom John Cena Jr. has had multiple iconic moments with, Brock Lesnar is honestly someone I'm surprised Cena hasn't crossed paths with more since their ultra-memorable series in the mid-2010s. For as terrible as Brock's title match with Cena was at the wretched Backlash 2003, once Brock returned to WWE in 2012, they more than made up for lost time together. Brock's return match at Extreme Rules 2012 would probably be my favorite WWE match of all time if they didn't have one of the most ludicrously bad booking choices as its finish. But regardless, it stands as an excellent reintroduction of Brock Lesnar as a ruthless monster, and it allowed Cena the rare opportunity to actually be the underdog that WWE liked telling fans he was. But while that match was undermined by its finish, the next time the two squared off was the exact opposite. SummerSlam 2014's main event is one of the most unique and awe-inspiring matches in SummerSlam history, where WWE's Golden Goose had its feathers individually plucked before being slaughtered. Suplex City began that night with Brock's dominant win, and they further added to their shared resume with a decent rematch at Night of Champions and one of the best triple threat matches in WWE history, also involving Seth Rollins at the Royal Rumble. Number 3, AJ Styles. Considering the track record WWE had with new stars being introduced on the main roster in the mid-2010s, there was no guarantee that AJ Styles would be a success in the big dub. He was having great performances throughout 2016 against Chris Jericho and Roman Reigns, but if he didn't establish himself further, it would have been easy for him to slip down the card into the IC title scene and never see the main events again. Then his feud with John Cena eliminated that concern from everyone's minds. Cena's late career resurgence as a super worker began with his US title run in 2015, but truly peaked with this rivalry with AJ Styles the following year. Whether it be their initial clash at Money in the Bank that served as an appetizer of what was to come, their follow-up show-stealing match at SummerSlam that nothing on the card could come close to, their fun triple threat match with Dean Ambrose at No Mercy, or their ultimate duel over the WWE Championship at the Royal Rumble, each of these matches could serve as someone's favorite of their series. From strictly an in-ring standpoint, it would be hard to argue that AJ Styles was not Cena's best opponent, but two had stories that captured fans' imaginations just a bit more. Number 2, CM Punk. John Cena and CM Punk's early work together was little of note. Their first matches in 2009 are short and dull affairs, and their extremely short feud at the end of 2010 consisted entirely of Cena calling him CM Sucks. Because don't get it twisted, the height of the PG era was But once the build to Money in the Bank 2011 started, these two became intertwined together in WWE history with some of the most iconic matches, promos, and long-term stories in WWE history. Their Money in the Bank match speaks for itself at this point, with every YouTuber drooling over it since the day it occurred, but the matches that have followed are also deserving of praise. Their SummerSlam match aside, because of all the Triple H, Kevin Nash, Alberto Del Rio nonsense I would rather remove from the timeline, Cena and Punk's rematch at Night of Champions 2012 is a great match in its own right, and a great example of WWE utilizing a draw finish in a way that actually services the story, showing Punk as someone who is now happy to retain the title by any means necessary. Then the piledriver match on Raw in 2013 capped off their rivalry with another of the best matches in Raw history. But as a rival to John Cena, only one has surpassed Punk and Cena's duality. Number 1, Edge. John Cena's old shoe. Edge and Cena surprisingly hit their strides as main event talent at the same time. The night Cena won his first WWE Championship, Edge won Money in the Bank, setting up the iconic first cash-in for New Year's Revolution that started the best rivalry of John Cena's career. 2006 was the year of Cena and Edge. With some brief interruptions for a little show called WrestleMania, their matches furthered their story and their careers immensely. The Royal Rumble match set Edge's year in motion, having dropped the WWE title back to Cena and letting the frustrations involved consume him. They had a fantastic triple threat match with Triple H at Backlash, and then Edge cost Cena the title in his match with Rob Van Dam at One Night Stand. They did a fantastic job spacing out the matches to make the rivalry not get stale, yet be able to tell a much longer story than most rivalries were at the time. They traded wins in the other's hometown, with Edge beating Cena in Boston at SummerSlam, and then following that up with a match at Unforgiven in Toronto, with that match being one of the best singles TLC matches ever, with the best FU ever helping to cap off a great chapter of their career-defining rivalry. Then add in even more great work together in 2009 with a brilliant promo from Edge talking about his visceral hatred of Cena and how powerful that word hatred is, setting up their final battle at Backlash in an unusually great last man standing match, and you have the best body of work the two have had with another wrestler in their careers. It is brilliant, I love it, I'm gonna go watch it all over again. And that's our list. Make sure, of course, that you like this video and subscribe so you never miss another wrestling list just like it. I would like to do more of these greatest rivals lists, so if you have any wrestlers in mind that you would like to see covered, make sure that you leave a comment down below. And yeah, have a good week, everybody. Jam that jam and all that.